So you are?
I have adopted all the kids. It's a ridiculous argument.
Thank you.
It's
Yep.
not, because
Well, no, think about it. Can I be against? Listen.
not, because there's plenty of
So I'm against. Listen, here.
kids in the foster care.
Let me help you out. I'm against sex trafficking children, right? You are too, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, I can be against sex trafficking children, and if you were like for it and you said, well, how many kids have you
Well,
adopted?
let me ask you this.
That wouldn't invalidate
Yeah.
my opposition to sex trafficking.
That's not the strongest point, but
No,
Yeah,
it's
it
a
is.
ask you this.
ironclad.
It's a pretty strong point there, dude. T. Russell Hunter of Abolitionist Rising totally schooled this random blonde-haired gentleman over here on abortion. Now, Abolitionist Rising, they are against abortion. They believe it's murder. And this guy thought he could bring in his college degree and all of his typical talking points that all these libtards that always bring up. And T. Russell Hunter just ended up outclassing him. Let's see how this conversation, on the street conversation, goes down.
So the thing is you knew that I knew more than you, so you ran away. Do you have a position on this? Do you have a position on this?
Yes, Russell. Oh, absolutely.
Who couldn't care?
Are you for human rights?
Huh?
You for human rights?
Yeah, of course.
Women's rights.
Oh, women's
Just
rights.
women? You don't think men should have rights too?
I think that men should be telling.
Well, as women they do. So what happens if it's a 14-year-old that's raped? So would
Oh yeah.
keep that?
They always hide behind the 14-year-old that's raped. They always hide behind those victims. Even it doesn't really matter though. It doesn't matter if they're thinking about the health care for the women, the mothers, or the great victims. It doesn't matter because they want abortion just legalized across the board. They think a woman, if they just don't want the baby, should be able to get to terminate the pregnancy. So it doesn't matter. The great victims and the health care, it doesn't matter. They want it across the board, but they hide behind that.
Keep that what? I don't believe human beings should ever be punished to death for the sins or crimes of another human being.
Right, but at the same time, your version of what's considered a human being. What is mine?
It's the same as yours.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be aware of that.
It really is.
That's
You just
insane.
deny it. No, yeah, it is. You just deny it. Like,
Yeah.
do you believe you were ever in the womb?
Well, obviously.
Okay. When you were in the womb, what were you?
I'm thinking this as like a physical standpoint. You're seeing it as like this weird spirit.
No, just physical. Just physical.
Yeah, just physical.
I can argue just physical. Physically, what were you when you were in the womb? Were
We
you?
always think we get this just from because we're Christians and stuff like that, and it's like, well, no, we could argue the point without having to bring God into it. We could actually argue the point without bringing God into it.
You crocodile or a human?
Oh my God, I'm not talking to these people. This is getting. You're
This
gonna.
is so non-scientific. There's no basis for it.
No.
Okay, let's just be
Unscientific.
scientific.
Okay, with the zygote.
Yeah, a human zygote or a pig zygote.
What do you mean? It's in a human uterus.
Well, mammals go through a zygotic stage, right? It's like that initial 1 to 2 days after conception.
Yeah.
A human in the zygote stage is a human who's a zygote who's about to become a morula, right?
But you also are missing the point that actually a lot of zygotes do not attach to the uterine wall.
Yeah, I know.
So
But
they
what-
pass.
Yeah.
And so is that abortion?
So if you do something to purposefully keep, so just since we're being scientific, let's just make sure we're at it. So a zygote can't attach to the uterine wall because it has to have the rigidity. So the zona pellucida, right, has to break down so you have enough rigidity. So whenever you reach the uterine wall, there's implantation.
Okay.
So we're talking long after the zygotic stage, about 7 days, 6, 7 days.
Yes.
All right, so when the human embryo attaches, they are a human being meeting their mother for the first time. And so that's the very first time that there's an embrace between mother and child.
But that doesn't make any sense because
That
why
doesn't
would-
make any sense.
Just
why would-
scientifically
Why
speaking.
would that zygote not be, by your definition, alive before it attached?
They are alive. They're just not yet, they're just not implanted yet.
So do you believe
So all-
sperm?
But
Do
no,
you believe sperm and eggs?
sperm is it's a organelle that's transporting the genetic material of the father to meet the genetic material of the mother.
Correct.
Yeah.
So the ovum and the spermatozoa are not humans. But once you have the fusion of the genetic material from the male and the female, you get the conception of a new human being. That human being does live about 6 to 8 days as a embryo prior to implantation. At implantation, if implantation is successful, they begin to have that relationship with the mother where they're receiving nutrients and all that kind of stuff. There's an enveloping, they grow. So eventually they're going to become a fetus. They're going to go through the fetal stage of development.
So you know your anatomy, which is good. But the problem is, and I was talking to him about this, is this causes suffering. People who are
what causes suffering?
Who says
people
that?
who are in situations in which they can't take
Only
care of a
stupid
baby,
libtards.
and the baby has to end up in foster care, and this is statistical.
Yeah, just kill them first.
But no, it's not. It's not murder though. If you're talking about.
Well, what if I'm in a terrible situation?
Yeah.
What if I'm like a young mom? I'm in an awful situation.
You're not a mom. You don't have a uterus.
Okay,
so you wouldn't be in that situation.
Okay, say I'm a 1-year-old boy. Can I make an analogy? And as long as I make it, I'm a boy.
Well, no, I think my point I'm trying to make here is you don't know what it's like to be a woman.
Well, I don't, but I'm saying that in terrible. No, he didn't even let me make it. In a terrible situation.
Premise of it is.
In a terrible situation, we don't answer terrible situations. Like if you were going to argue, hey, this could be an awful situation and abortion could help them out of the situation. To make that argument, you have to make it and say that it's also okay to kill like a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old to get out of a terrible situation.
True. That is a massive.
Why? But why? I
You're
agree.
using deductive logic and.
I agree, but why is it not true?
Fallacies.
Why is it wrong for a mother to strap her kids in a car and drive it off a bridge if she is?
Because those kids
are what?
Able, at that point in their life, they're able to understand their surroundings. A lump of cells is not.
Why do you have to call it a lump of cells, dude? Why do you have to dehumanize the zygote like that? You know, the baby growing inside of you. Why do you have to dehumanize it by just calling it a lump of cells? By the way, imagine 2025 still just calling it a lump of cells.
What if they're 1 week old? Because I don't believe in humans have rights only when they understand things.
Yeah.
Well,
I think even humans that don't.
You're prioritizing clumps of cells over the actual women who have to give birth. And statistically, people.
Technically speaking, they're both clumps of cells. One is larger.
Yeah, but you're making a standpoint.
Right.
That you're caring more about this than.
No. Equality.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
It's not about
the
caring
laws
about it
against
more.
murder should apply to the mother and to the child equally.
Yeah, but you.
So you
also
can't kill
never have to
mothers.
Make that decision.
Ridiculous to compare
Why?
an embryo to a 2-year-old child.
Yeah, that's a.
No, categorically they're both humans.
No, they're
I wouldn't
not.
care. I wouldn't compare a pig embryo to a human embryo. I'd say one's a pig, one's a human. The category is human.
No.
See, you're making too much sense here. Okay, you're using too much logic here. All right, you got to stop it with that because you're making us feel stupid.
Human embryo, fetus.
The Adam and Steve, like it's the exact same logic.
Is that what?
What?
Adam and Steve?
You're using the exact same logic as people who are anti-LGBTQ. You're using the exact.
What are you saying?
You're saying, oh, why can't I just like marry a cow or some
the
shit?
heck?
Like there's a
Not.
decline.
What the hell are you
Well, I'm
talking
not
about?
saying that, but
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, if someone says
No,
a
you're making
human,
an assumption.
I'm not making any assumptions. Trust me.
No, you are.
What's the assumption that
The
I'm making?
assumption is a clump of human cells.
No. I'm saying a human.
Yeah.
So I believe in human rights. I believe that humans. We disagree on this. This is the presupposition that we disagree on.
Yeah.
I believe human beings are valuable because they are humans. So I attach the whole right to life and the dignity and the protection, the justice, all that stuff to all humans equally, regardless of the humans' like
But you-
mental faculties, their race, their religion.
And I
All
get that.
humans should not be murdered.
We can move past that. We can move past.
But that's where we debate, because you don't think of humans.
No, but the problem is, see, what I'm saying is, you can have your idea that a zygote or a clump of human cells that's dividing is equivalent to human. You can have that.
No, not equivalent, just
So-
is.
That is literally what equivalent means. But let me tell you, so
Well, a human embryo is a human by definition and by biology.
Yeah.
By biology.
If
what
you want us-
equivalent means. But anyway, what I'm saying is you can have that.
No, it's not.
But the problem is
No, the equivalent means that it's equal to. It's like it's the same as. It's not doesn't mean it is. If you know what I mean.
is
Like you could equivocate an embryo of a pig to an embryo of a human. You can make an equivocation there, but it would be wrong to say, "Oh, it is an embryo of a pig is a human embryo." It's so no. It's this guy doesn't even know what equivocation means.
the stats of people who suffer who don't have access to abortion. You look at more progressive countries, and hold on, let me finish. I was telling him I was a sociologist. I've read the statistics, and I specifically.
Of course, he's a sociologist. Oh my goodness! Of course. That's why he's an idiot. Of course, he had to go get college educated to become a college educated idiot. I'll be a sociologist.
Read on people who don't have access to abortion.
Yeah.
Way worse outcomes in their life.
Okay.
There's a lot of death that comes with people who aren't allowed.
So you are concerned with death and suffering.
I'm concerned about the death and suffering of the person.
Right.
Who is
So
carrying a clump of cells.
to understand our position, just
I get it.
include the concern for death and suffering to include all humans.
Yeah,
But if you just include some humans that you care about,
You don't care about the humans that are walking.
no, I do.
No, you don't.
Yeah, I don't think they should be murdered.
No, but you think they should
They-
suffer.
No.
You
What?
have the statistics.
No,
that
we
show
should help
people
them.
who have access to this
Yes.
live better lives.
I
and
don't.
outcomes.
I don't think that abortion helps them.
Yeah.
I don't.
It does.
I don't think evil helps people.
To help these kids that are unwanted.
Well, this is one thing.
Are you going to adopt
This is one
all
thing.
the kids in the foster care system?
Oh my goodness. This sociologist right here got college educated to become an idiot, making all the same stupid arguments. Calls it you're just hitting all the beats, hitting all the checklist of libtard talking points. And that's another one of the go-tos. Oh, are you going to care for all the kids in the foster care system? Like, what the hell? That would be like if I was saying, hey man, it's wrong to murder homeless people. It's wrong. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't just go and kill homeless people. You shouldn't do that. And then oh, well, are you going to take in all of the homeless people in your homes? Are you? Huh? Like that would be a stupid argument there. And it's a stupid argument here.
Care system who
Yes,
who you are?
I have adopted all the kids. It's a ridiculous argument.
Thank
I-
you.
It's
Yep.
not, because,
Well, no, think about it. Can I be against? Listen.
not because there's
I
plenty of
adopted all
What?
the
So I'm against. Listen. Here.
kids in the foster care
Let me help you
system.
out. I'm against sex trafficking children, right? You are too, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay. I can be against sex trafficking children, and if you were like for it and you said, well, how many kids have you
Well,
adopted?
let me ask you this.
That wouldn't invalidate
Yeah.
my opposition to sex trafficking.
That's not the strongest point, but
No,
Yeah,
it's
it
a
is.
ask you this.
ironclad.
It's a pretty strong point there, dude. Just because your sociology, your college educated ass just says it's not, doesn't mean it's not. It was a pretty solid argument there, Blondie.
logic.
No, it's not. But let me ask you this.
It just shows your arguments, Pat.
Yeah.
That's all I did.
See, I went to college for this, and I have read
Oh, good. Jeez. These people didn't go to college to actually learn something. They just went to college so they could go and talk to people and be condescending and be like, I went to college for this. That's all their degree is worth. That's all it's worth. It's just worth so you could go and condescend to people and tell them, I went to college for this. I read books.
read books of people who studied lives of people who have access to abortion. You have a book that was written 2,000 years ago.
So-
I think I have a little bit more basis in reality than your logic.
So
But also, let me ask
which
you
college
this.
did you go to? Just a side note.
OU,
Okay, when did you stop? What you got your degree?
bachelor's.
Bachelor's. I went to OU too.
Or engineering, what?
No, philosophy.
Oh,
And then I got my master's in history of science.
Okay, so that.
So if your argument is I've gone to school longer than you, then you
Damn.
lost your argument.
Holy shit. Dude, he couldn't even college explain. He can't even college explain to him now because he's out colleged him. So now he truly has nothing. That was all he had for. That was all he was able to break his degree glass for and be like, aha, look at that degree. I went to college. But now, man, I forget his name, but Mr. Abolitionist Rising over here, he's like, well, look at, I got this degree and I went there longer than you. So what now? And Blondie over here is like, well, shit. I have to actually think of good arguments now. Shit.
Okay, good.
Is,
That would be a bad
I
argument.
literally read about sociology of sex, which included access to abortion.
Right.
People who don't have access to it have less favorable outcomes.
But if you
and
extend,
they suffer because of it.
if you extend
both
your
the
concern
mother and the
about
kid
human
will suffer.
suffering to the kid,
Both
then
the
you-
mother and the whatever kid that would come out would suffer.
so the
Ooh,
answer is
suffering.
protect them from suffering.
Yep.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
So genocide, like
Okay.
say there's a people group out there that's suffering, should we just kill them to protect them from suffering?
You're going back to this idea.
I'm just saying it's your argument.
No, you're putting your supposition on my argument.
No, your
My
argument was
doesn't
protect.
my argument
protect people
doesn't
from
have
suffering.
The premise that accomplice cells is human.
Ugh.
I care about the woman
Yes.
more than I care about.
Right.
Yeah, we get that. We
and
know
I know
that.
that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like you have to. My
I mean-
presupposition is all humans are humans and they all should be treated equally.
But
Yeah.
you're not true.
Your presupposition, no, yeah, I am, because I don't believe you can murder human women
People who
who
follow
are
this
born.
ideal, the women who follow this ideal or are forced to,
Forced
live way
to.
worse lives.
Forced to. Yeah, we force women to believe that. Yeah. The women who believe that, they're not doing that because they have a choice, because they believe murdering an unborn baby is wrong. No. They're doing it because we force them to.
Whaler.
No,
yes.
no.
Yes, they do.
So what? That's just like imagination. Like
It's
women.
not.
Okay, so here's the deal.
What?
If I grant your premise for the sake of argument for
Yeah.
like intellectual stuff,
Yeah.
so if I say well, this person here is going to have a terrible life if she's not allowed to abort her baby, or her zygote, or her, well, probably not aborting a zygote. That's early on. Her fetus.
Yeah.
She's not allowed to abort her fetus,
Yeah.
and therefore she's going to have a terrible life.
Yeah.
If the next premise is human beings should not be having terrible lives, then your argument's validity is in jeopardy because the person, the
Yeah.
human that you are aborting is a human.
You're putting
So
your
you've
premise
just-
on my argument in that. And what I'm saying is,
You believe in human rights.
yes, but you think that extends to a clump of cells over an actual human woman.
No. Do you believe in thou shalt not murder?
See, I don't believe in the Bible. I don't
Well,
base.
you agree with the laws against murder? We should have laws against murder?
Correct.
Okay, so we should have laws against murder. The difference between us is I think the laws against murder should apply to all humans.
No, the difference between us is that you. No, I mean.
That's
The difference between us is that you believe a clump of cells is human. That is the premise of your argument.
Yes.
You're applying
If
that.
a human,
You're applying that to my argument, which I don't fundamentally agree with you.
so-
Yeah, it's easy to have the argument of I don't believe we should murder humans, but it's okay to murder an unborn baby. It's easy to believe that as long as you don't consider the unborn baby a human, a person, it's easy to believe that. It's the same justification for slavery. When slavery, it's like, well, that's our property. They're not human beings. They're our property. So therefore, it's okay to treat them however we want. See how that works?
I said I'll give you that.
if a human is made of cells, which,
I don't believe we should mistreat humans. Oh, but the slaves, well, they're not humans. They're our property. We own them. See? It's easy. It's easy to justify this stuff to yourselves when you make logical justifications like that to yourself.
they are,
Yeah.
I believe if that aggregate of cells, clump or whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
is human, they should be protected from murder.
Yes. And I would say, if I believed that, I would understand your logic.
So what? So your problem is science. You don't follow the science
See, let me tell you something.
because
No, let me tell you something.
scientists believe
Let me
that
tell you
humans
something.
develop in the womb.
Between science and your religion,
Yeah.
the difference between science and religion, people say there's a belief in science, right?
Yeah.
Just as there would be a belief in religion. The difference between the two is that if every human, every single record of humanity was suddenly erased one day, the same rules that apply to science would still be there.
Right. I believe the same thing about moral laws.
But
Yeah.
if that all happened, your
Yeah.
book would not be the same.
What's the argument for that? So here's what I believe: there are natural laws.
What was
Well,
that?
no,
No, it wasn't.
I may agree with part of it.
Objective.
So I believe that natural laws would exist even if humans weren't allowed to describe them.
Correct.
So the relationships between things that we call
No.
universal gravitation
Correct.
would exist even if we weren't there to make the equations,
Yes.
right?
But if
But I
all
think
the
that thou shalt not murder and thou shalt not steal, kill, lie, I believe those are the same in that they exist outside of humans who write them.
So I don't.
That there's a moral law and that there's a natural law, and they both presuppose a
I
lawgiver.
don't think that you need a book to tell you that.
No, I don't
Because
think you did too either.
It doesn't make sense.
Hey,
to
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. You don't need a book because it's written in your heart and in your mind.
Yeah.
Like that's why you're going to find "Thou shalt not murder"
Yeah.
among like people who've never read the Bible. Know there's something about humans that you can't murder them. That's
No,
different than
it's
flies.
because it doesn't.
It's written
make
on our
sense.
hearts.
No, it's in.
I think we have the Bible just because God wanted us to have
So here's the
some
difference.
sound
It's
information.
It's what I'll say is this: the reason why we don't murder, it's not because of a moral thing. It's because it wouldn't make sense to do so. Because if you live in a small hunter-gatherer society,
But what is abortion?
Yeah.
If not
I'm getting
stopping the passing on of
I'm getting
genetic
there.
materials.
so if you get there, let me get there.
Okay.
What I'm saying is, if you're in a hunter-gatherer society, right,
Mm-hmm.
you have no incentive to murder someone who is helping you survive. Because in those times,
Yep.
it's very vital for people to be connected.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, that's the exact same thing. Like
Yep.
loneliness, for example, it's an archaic human trait because you'd be left out of your group, right? My point is, these morals that you believe,
Developed.
I don't believe they developed. I think they were always there, and there's archaeological evidence to prove that
Yes.
people just didn't murder each other, or
Yeah.
we wouldn't be here.
I'm well aware of the
Way before.
So it's wild how like these people who don't believe in God, how they always just like, well, we just know not to murder, but then they're also sitting here justifying murdering the unborn baby. Like, make it make sense. Like, you know not to murder, but you need to be told not to murder. What?
Before the
Sort of,
existence of God.
no. So I've read everything.
Abrahamic God.
I've read everything on this, but so my doctoral dissertation was going to be on Darwin's Descent of Man. So I'm very familiar with the idea of trying to explain the origin of morality on a biological basis as some process of natural selection
Let me
acting on
ask you,
variation.
have
I
you
understand
read The
that.
Origin of Man?
The origin of man?
Charles Darwin, his greatest work.
It's called The
Origin of
Descent of
Species.
Man. Origin of Species.
Yes.
Yes. I read it about 12 times.
Okay.
And
So
in
how-
French
but
and
I'm
German.
asking you how someone who
French
can
and
read
German,
The
dude.
Origin of Species
I
comes
had to throw that in there.
conclusion.
In French and in German.
Because-
You do.
You think that the origin of species is still upheld by people?
That are you asking me if I don't believe evolution exists?
No, I'm saying you're saying that particular book, Origin of Species. No one believes that particular book is the modern formulation of evolutionary theory.
It's the foundation of it.
So I'm a historian of science. My
Okay.
main focus was Darwin,
Yes.
and so my three topics were Darwinian evolution, coming to America, all that kind of stuff. Then science and religion, and then I had American 19th century history, sort of an abolition of slavery and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So, the origin of species and the mechanism of natural selection by chance variation laid out in that book has been rejected and replaced by a modern synthesis.
Which parts of the
So like Theodosius Dobzhansky, for instance, people might like Origin of Species as sort of like there's this
what
thing that was
specific
done.
part of Origin of Species are you saying that we don't accept nowadays?
Oh, lots of the examples that are used and argued for that.
Like what?
You know, in particular, Darwin's studies, he's got some studies on barnacles in there that no longer are upheld, that we understand differently.
Okay,
The finch beak variation from the Galapagos Islands.
So specific
Yeah.
interpretations of specific species.
No, I'm saying it is universally held by historians of science that the Origin of Species as a work put forward an idea that people found to be attractive, but the science inside of that is no longer considered.
Okay. You're a fraud.
No, just go look it up.
That's no.
dude. Remember when this guy right here was all about college education? He was all about it. He was all about using his college education to bring up how he knows more than him. But now that Mr. Abolitionist Rising over here is throwing it back at him and saying, listen, this is what I learned from my college experience, and I majored in this and that. And he's actually giving specific examples of the things that are we no longer follow from Origin of Species. Now this dude can handle it. Mr. College Education over here. Oh, looks like Mr. College Education just got out college educated.
No, it's not a look-up thing, because literally they still teach that in the University of Oklahoma as a foundational concept of evolution.
All right, so just okay, so
You're
on
bullshitting.
it's a history of science
I
question.
know you're bullshitting. You
Yeah.
have not read The Origin of Species.
So do you know who Theodosius Dobzhansky is?
You already won. Like, they already, like...
We already won.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're just out here, like, shoving it
Because-
down people's throats.
No, because people.
He's a fraud. He hasn't.
Hey, so the thing is you knew that I knew more than you, so you ran away.
Yep.
So, the quality is that
now he's now he's over here coping about it. Oh, so this is where he gets in the argument with that drag queen.
He was quoting Charles
Listen.
Darwin already. He said he had a PhD, and he didn't.
No, I didn't say I had a PhD. I said I was writing a PhD thesis
Botched
on
Darwin.
descent of.
Botched Darwin? Brother, you didn't even get the title right.
Have
I
you
understand
read
that.
The Origin of Man?
Man.
And you said you read The Origin of Species 12 times.
I have.
Okay, well,
This is a fact.
you clearly don't
Hey,
know.
go to the University of Oklahoma, go to the Bazell, look up T. Russell Hunter, and read my dissertation. It's literally on
T. Russell
Darwin's
Hunter.
Origin of
literally
Species.
never do that, because I don't think you should be allowed to be allowed. I think you should. I think people like.
I'm
that-
just saying, it's not. I'm not arguing that's why my argument's true. I'm just saying that's just a
I
fact.
want.
Fine, I'll do it myself. This is the Bazell Library.
He's about to bring the receipts. It's a nice library.
And if you want to come read it, it's here for you too. So not to toot my own horn or anything, but I do actually happen to know quite a bit about Darwin. And that guy I was talking to knew absolutely nothing. But if you like the videos, be sure that you're subscribed. If you want to see more videos like this,
That's
consider
great.
supporting
that
us.
was beautiful
month-
to watch. I love it. I love that guy. That Blondie was outclassed in every single way. Every single way that guy was outclassed. You know, he tried to bring up, these arguments, these outdated, libtarded arguments that, the checklist of talking points he brought up. It's just a clump of cells. He kept saying that. What else did he say? The checklist was there. And then when he was losing, he brought up, well, my college degree. I went to college. And then T. Russell Hunter over here was like, well, I also went to college. And then he out-colleged Blondie over here. Totally just threw out everything. Just threw out everything that Blondie had in his arsenal. Completely dismantled it. And then Blondie completely rage quit when he realized he was losing the argument, and he lost the argument. And then he had to go and cope afterwards. Man, that was beautiful to see. Good job, T. Russell Hunter. If you want to see more like this, I got a lot more stuff on my channel. Give this video a like. That'll help me out a lot. Give this video a comment if you got something to say. And also subscribe to my channel because, like I said, I release videos every day. I stream Monday through Friday and sometimes Saturdays. And if you subscribe to my channel, you get notifications and stuff on all that. So that'll help me out. Thank you very much and have a good day.